What's going on, everyone? This is Lior with Compass out of Boston, and in this video we're going to be talking about some of the pros and the cons of living in Medford, Massachusetts. So let's get at it. What's going on, everyone? This is Lior with Compass, and in this video we're going to be talking about the pros and the cons of living in Medford, Massachusetts. Now, before we get into it, two quick things. Number one, guys, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, smash that subscribe button. I put out tons of new videos every single week talking about what it's like to live in different neighborhoods around Boston, tips on buying, tips on selling, and plenty of more stuff. So if you haven't already subscribed, smash that subscribe button. And number two, if you guys are even thinking about doing anything with real estate anywhere around the greater Boston area, I get so many calls from you guys watching my videos, and I absolutely love it. So if you guys have any questions, thinking about doing anything, whether it's buying, selling, investing, whatever it is, shoot me a call, send me a text, send me an email, hit me up on Instagram, whatever it is, and I will help you out. So let's get into today's content, which are some of the pros and the cons of living in Medford, Massachusetts. And we're going to start with pro number one. And pro number one of Medford is it's actually, even though it's a little farther away from Boston than other towns like Cambridge, Somerville, it's actually pretty a convenient location, especially if you need access to Boston. So in terms of highway system, you got 93 going right through Medford. So it's very easy to get on the highway system and go north, south, etc. You also have plenty of transportation options. So currently you have the Orange Line Wellington stop in East Medford. That stop can take you right into downtown Boston. You also currently have the commuter rail stop in West Medford. So if you're living on the west side of Medford, you can obviously use that if you need to be commuting into downtown, etc. And the other thing is the Green Line is currently being built and extended through Somerville and into Medford in the Tufts area. So that'll provide even more transportation options, especially for those folks living in West Medford / Tufts. You can hop on the Green Line and go right through Somerville, Cambridge, and downtown. So from a convenience and transportation perspective, it is a huge pro for Medford. Pro number two is that even though Medford is overall pretty close to Boston, right? I mean, you're about 20-25 minutes away, depending on traffic. And it's close to some pretty dense areas like Cambridge and Somerville. Overall, Medford feels a lot more like a quieter small town than any of these areas close to it. It's kind of Somerville and Cambridge are both very dense. They obviously feel like very heavy, dense cities, but Medford's completely different. You've got so many residential pockets, a lot of pockets with smaller single families. Even Medford Square, right? If you go into like the downtown of Medford, it's a lot quieter than a lot of the squares in Cambridge and Somerville. It's just overall a lot more of a small town feel, even though it's literally the next city over. Plus, you've got a lot of long established classic restaurants that you see in a lot of small towns. So in Medford, so like Nappy's, you've got Bob's Italian Foods. So overall, if you kind of like that smaller town feel rather than being in that hustle and bustle of the dense city, again, even though it's right next to all that, it's kind of got its own little feel and vibe. Pro number three about Medford is if you're someone that's looking for outdoor spots to do activities or for recreation, Medford has got you absolutely covered. The two things you might probably know about Medford is it's right next to on the Mystic Lakes. And on the Mystic Lakes, you can go swimming, boating, walk around them. They're absolutely beautiful. Medford also borders the Fells. The Fells are over a 2,000-acre state park. They've got a ton of walking trails, hiking trails. If you walk there during the week, you'll see people walking their dogs out there. Absolutely gorgeous. If you go to the top, you can have absolutely incredible views of the whole surrounding area and even Boston. So the Fells right in the northern part of Medford provides tons of recreational opportunities. You've also got 12 other parks, 2 other beaches, and you've got plenty of other recreational facilities. You've got horse stables, you've got a skating rink, you got tennis courts. So overall, from a recreational and outdoor perspective, Medford has got you covered. Actually, very unique especially when you compare it to the inner city. So if you're looking for that, if you're looking for that outdoor space, the lakes, the tennis courts, the parks, Medford is absolutely amazing for that, and that's why it's pro number 3. And pro number 4 is compared to the surrounding towns, right? I've already talked about some of them like Somerville, Cambridge, Arlington, Winchester. Medford's a lot cheaper of an option than all of these towns, right? So, you're still close to a lot of these amenities like we talked about, like the Fells, the Mystic Lakes. But a lot of families that are kind of evaluating where they want to live, they look at all these surrounding towns, they see the really, really high prices. Medford kind of stands out because it's right there, but it's significantly cheaper than a lot of these other towns. So especially for younger families that kind of want that single family or want a little bit more of that suburban feel, and don't really want to pay, huge sums of money for towns like Arlington and Winchester, Medford is an absolutely amazing alternative that offers all of these, amenities that a lot of families look for. So now that we talked about some of the pros, let's go into some of the cons. So starting with con number 1, that compared to the surrounding towns that we just talked about, like the Winchester and the Arlingtons, Medford's school system is not necessarily as good. If you look at rankings online, you'll kind of see a lot of the schools fluctuate between a 5 or 6 out of 10. So they're not bad, but they're certainly not amazing. And obviously, when you look at some of those towns, like the Arlington, like I said, like the Winchesters, those towns obviously have very strong school systems. So when you do a little, if that's something that you need to account for, especially if you have younger kids, again, not a bad school system, just not amazing. Con number 2 I'd say about Medford is the commercial and retail space is not amazing compared to surrounding towns. A lot of Medford is just a lot of these small little shops, which some of them are fantastic. And you do have by Wellington, you have had a number of very large scale developments that were for commercial and retail purposes. There's certainly some good options, but they still don't quite have the vibe of the city or close to the city, right? Where you have a lot of these awesome commercial opportunities, which often have shopping, food, activities, etc. So I'd say overall, Medford's not as good in that department. It's definitely a lot more of a heavier suburban feel. So if that's something that's important for you, you should definitely consider that. Finally, con number 3 I'd say about Medford is you really got to know the neighborhoods. Some neighborhoods kind of have their own little drawbacks. For example, South Medford's and the area by Tufts is a very multifamily dense area because you have it's close to the university, so you have a lot more rentals. So you have a lot more 2 families that kind of sit on tighter lots and not as much land. If you go to North Medford, you have kind of smaller single families, often down, not the most, they're kind of a lot smaller, a lot of ranches, so you just got to really understand the pockets, the different pockets of Medford. If you're looking for something specific, you should really understand exactly what neighborhood you want to jump into. So just as a heads up, be cognizant of that and be aware of that. So you kind of land in a neighborhood that would really make sense for you. So those are some of the pros and cons I wanted to share with you guys about Medford. Like I said, overall, it's a great alternative to living to towns like Somerville and Cambridge, especially if you're looking for something that has a little bit more space, is a little bit more cheaper, feels a little bit more suburban than these really dense pockets like the Cambridge, like the Somervilles. So overall, if that's something you're looking for, especially if you're a younger family, it's a great alternative. You're still super close to Boston. It's still extremely convenient to get in and out, both by car and obviously on transportation. So if that sounds like something that's up your alley, Medford is a great city to live in and to check out. So if you guys have any questions, any thoughts, throw them below. And like I said, guys, I get so many calls from you guys who watch my video, and I absolutely love getting those. So if you have any of that, just hit me up and I will take care of you.